Hey, this is Mrs. Slauson. This is continuing with our Chapter 2 review for the test. So in this next section, we will be writing the equation, and the general format of the equations we'll be creating will be y equals. You could also choose to f of x or g of x, a, and then in parentheses, x minus h. We're going to have some exponent here of 2 or 3, and then we will have our k. Okay, so starting with 17, I'm going to establish my vertex, which is going to be right here at 0, -3. That will become my h and k, and then one other point. So I want some point that I know the coordinate of, and you actually have quite a few options. This is a point I'm pretty certain about. This one, I've got these here. And so the point I like to use is as many positive numbers as possible. So I'm going to be going with this point, and it is worth 2, 5. So that is going to be my x and my y. So I'm ready to solve for a. So using this format, I'm going to be replacing the variables for numbers that I know. So y is going to be 5 equals a. X is going to be 2 minus h, which is 0, squared plus my k. And as you go through the math, you'll want to start right here and do your parentheses first. So 2 take away 0 is 2. After I do my parentheses, I need to use my exponent. So 2 to the second power is 4. So this whole thing here is a times 4, which we are more used to seeing as 4a. And just bringing everything else down. Now to solve for a, I'm going to add 3 to the other side, and I get 8 equals 4a, and after I divide by 4 to solve for a, my a is 2. So when I'm ready to write my equation, I can write y, I can write f of x, either or, equals, and then it's going to be my a, and x minus my h value, which we already had was 0, squared, plus my k value. And that is my answer for 17. 18, this time since it's cubic, we're going to be using a cube instead. And again, I'm going to establish my, I guess what you could consider a vertex, or for some of us, the point of inflection, and that's right here. So that is, let's see, -2, 1. And that's what I'll use as my h and my k. And then just one other point. So the other point I'm going to use is this point right there, and that is -1 and 2. So that'll be the additional xy point that I use. There are other points you could use, like this one. You could use -3, 0 if you want. And if you're not sure about this other point, and I would definitely go up and ask your teacher if that's the right coordinate. So anyway, y equals, so 2 equals a, which we will find out, x, so -1, take away h, which is -2, cubed, and then I'm going to add k, which is 1. So I'm going to start with my work in the parentheses. And -1 take away -2. That take away -2, if you add the opposite, just becomes -1 plus 2. So when I go into my parentheses, that's 1. And then when I take 1 and cube it, I get 1. So this turns into 1a, or just a. And now to get a by itself, I'll just subtract 1, and a is 1. So ready to write my equation. Y equals, you could use f of x, g of x as well. I'm going to have a. Technically, then, you don't need that 1. X minus my h value, cubed, plus my k. And minus -2 is okay, but it would be better if you had just written x plus 2. All right, so 19, we have a quadratic, and 20, you have a cubic. So I'm going to let you do those. Just remember to use the correct format. Sorry, just writing those down. And what's what? So your vertex, this will be your h and your k. And this over here will be your x and your y. And here, -1/8, that will be your h and your k. And -16, -17 will be your x and your y. Okay? All right, let's move on. So 21. So 21 is where you're going to have to use your graphing calculator. That's something hold on. All right, so I'm jumping off of the review page into my graphing calculator page. And I'm not going to be typing all of these values in. I'm just going to show you how you get to type the values in. So what you want to do is you want to press Stat. You want to choose Edit, which is already there. So I'll press Enter for that. And if by chance, you have some numbers entered into your calculator, what you want to do is scroll up to L1. We want to clear out those lists. So once L1 is highlighted up here, I'm going to press Clear. And then I'm going to press Enter, and it should enter my list. And if you by chance have something in L2 as 1, again, go so that L2 is highlighted, and then press Clear and Enter, and then you can start to enter your list. So with the L1, I will be putting my years. So you're just going to start typing in 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then I'll jump over to L2. And I'll type those numbers in. So 22.8, 25. If you want to put the 0.0, you can. You definitely want to go slow here and double check all your numbers as you do this. The list is pretty long, and with those decimals, it's easy to put the decimal in the wrong spot. 27.1. 4 gets 27.8. Whoops, cancel that. Let's see. All right, 0.8, 28.1, 27.9, 26.9, and 26.1. So before you do anything else, I would definitely encourage you to go back, double check that your numbers are all typed in correctly. Whoops, that went a little too far. And that every X value has a Y value, because if one is missing a value, then you will be getting some type of error message. So as I'm sitting here, I am just looking through, making sure that I have everything typed in correctly, and it looks like it, but okay. So what I'm going to do now is come up with the equation. Using the regression feature on your calculator, write a quadratic function that models this data. So to get the equation, I press Stat. I'm going to scroll over to Calc, and we are working with quadratic, so I'm going to choose option 5. And then depending on the operating system, this calculator that you're seeing has an older operating system. I only have to hit enter once. Some of you will have to hit enter quite a few times. And the expectation is that you do round everything or truncate everything to 3 decimal places. So I'm going to be switching, excuse me, over to my next screen and writing that down. So first I'm writing it down on my paper. So give me one moment. Okay, so back to this page. So now that I've typed it all in, I am rounding. If you truncate, that means you are just cutting the decimal off 3 numbers behind the decimal. So it's going to be y equal, a is replaced with negative 0.213 x squared. B is replaced with 2.085x, and C is replaced with 22.962. So, sorry, not the best handwriting. So, what will the population be in 2015? So, this started in 1996. So, 0 is 1996. 1 is 1997. So I won't be putting 2015 in my calculator. What I'll do is take 2015, subtract 1996, and realize that my time is actually 15. So what you're going to do is wherever you see an X, whoops, not writing that correctly, I will be putting 15 in there. So you have a couple of options. The way I'm writing it down right now, you could go to the main screen of your calculator and just type this in, and it will do all the math for you. What I would encourage you to do is to actually go back to your graphing calculator and type your equation in. So negative 0.213 x squared plus 2.085 x and plus 22.962, and then going to your table and just going until you find where x is 15. It's not that far to scroll. Whoops. Let's see. Let's get this back over here. Almost there. So it's 6.312. Now that is not a population. The population was in thousands. So what you can do is just take this times 1,000. You can use your calculator to do that. And the population is 6,312. So if you think about this, the population started out, it went up because this is a quadratic, it's upside down, it's been flipped. And so the population hit a maximum value here, and then it started to decrease. And that's where we are at this point, we are somewhere here on this decreasing end. Okay. All right, let's move on to the next part. So again, only some of these problems are going to be done for you, not all of them. All right, so I'm going to be doing problem 2a and 2b with you guys. I'm going to make a new function, k of x, and I will do that by taking f of x. So k of x will be created by taking f of x and dividing it by g of x. So this is not a long division problem. This is a simple fraction, for instance, like 8/24, that I would want you to simplify down into 1/3. So the first thing I look at is my -4/3, and can I simplify that? Nope, that's not a fraction that I can simplify, so that will just stay as -4/3. And then I'm going to look at my x's. So the rule of exponents is that I can subtract the exponents. The x squared means there's 2x's here, 3x's here, and so I can just cross off, cancel out an x from the top and the bottom, these factors. And so when I'm done, I have an x left in the bottom. The shortcut says you can actually just take your exponents, this 3 and 2, and subtract them. And 3 take away 2 is 1. And since there are more x's in the bottom, that is where that x will end up. So that's the first part. Then I'm going to determine the domain. I probably should have started with that, because when I determine domain, I want to do it in its unsimplified form. So let's go back to the unsimplified form. -4x squared over 3x cubed. And remember, domain issues right now are the fact that the denominator, this denominator, cannot be 0. So what we're going to do is we're going to solve for x. I'm going to divide by 3 first. That still leaves me with 0 over here. And then to get x alone, I'm going to cube root. And when I cube root 0, I just get 0. So x cannot be 0. So this is a domain restriction. If you want to write the domain a different way, you could do this. You could say, okay, it's every number but 0. So number smaller and up to 0 but not including 0, and 0 but not including 0, and anything bigger than that. So this is the domain restriction. This is the domain. Your teacher, depending on who he or she are, will expect you to write your answer a certain way. All right, let's move on to 2b. So for the function above, k of x, and so I'm going to use my simplified function, this -4 over 3x, evaluate h of 0. So that means I'm supposed to go here into my equation and make x become 0. And when I do that, I'm dividing by 0, which you are not able to do. So for the function above k of x, evaluate h of 0, in assignments it would say if possible. This is not possible due to the domain restriction. All right, next let's just finish up a little bit more. We'll do 4a and 4b. My job on 4a is to subtract these. So I will be taking -x squared, and I will be subtracting all of g of x. So I will be subtracting 5x cubed, x squared, and 9. And so when I showed my students this, we stacked our like terms. So what I'm going to do is put the x squared term with the x squared term, the -9 under the -8, and just put this 5x cubed up in front. So what I'm supposed to do is subtract all of g of x. So I'm supposed to, subtract that, subtract that, subtract that, and I prefer to go through, here's the subtraction, and change it into addition and add the opposite, and the opposite, and then I can just add these columns like we used to in elementary school. So when I'm done, I get -5x cubed. This becomes -2x squared, 4x, and 1. So this is my new function, h of x, and determine the domain. Here my domain, I don't have a fraction, so there are no domain restrictions. So you can write ARN, or you could write it like this, whichever you prefer.